When life collapses, it never happens piece by piece. It happens all at once. One failure doesn't stay isolated. One loss doesn't remain contained. One mistake doesn't end where it began. Everything starts to fall together. Most people think this is bad luck. It isn't. It's structure collapsing. Your life doesn't fall apart because you're weak. It falls apart because the order holding everything together disappears. This is the part no one explains. Pain is not what destroys you. Chaos does. When routines break, when direction disappears, when basic order dissolves, the mind panics. You stop sleeping properly. You lose discipline. Your confidence collapses. Your emotions become unpredictable. Not because you're broken, but because nothing is holding you in place anymore. This is stillness and direction. If you're here looking for comfort, this won't give it to you. But if you want to understand why life collapses so violently and how the Japanese rebuilt themselves without motivation or emotional healing, stay. And if this way of thinking resonates, like the video and subscribe, not for inspiration, but so you stay anchored when everything feels unstable again. Here's the truth most men never hear. Life doesn't fall apart when something bad happens. It falls apart when structure is removed. You can endure pain with structure. You can survive loss with routine. You can handle fear when order exists. But when structure disappears, even small problems become unbearable. This is why collapse feels overwhelming. Everything depends on everything else. When one pillar goes, the others don't slowly weaken, they follow. The ancient Japanese understood this deeply. They didn't ask, "How do I feel after collapse?" They asked, "What order still exists?" Because emotion stabilizes after structure, never before. Modern advice gets this backwards. It tells you to process feelings first, to rest, to reflect, to heal. The Japanese considered this dangerous because a man without structure is at the mercy of his emotions, and emotions are unstable by nature. After collapse, the Japanese did not rush to recover. They slowed down. They stripped life down to its simplest form, not to escape pain, but to contain it. This is why their recovery looked cold from the outside. No dramatic breakthroughs, no emotional release, no positive thinking, just order. Small, rigid, unemotional. They believed that before strength could return, stability had to be rebuilt. And stability does not come from hope, it comes from repetition. This is the mistake most people make when life falls apart. They try to rebuild meaning before rebuilding structure. Meaning cannot survive chaos. Structure can. This chapter should unsettle you, because it reveals something uncomfortable. Your life didn't fall apart because you failed. It fell apart because the systems holding you together were weaker than the pressure applied to them. And that means recovery isn't about becoming stronger, it's about becoming structured. In the next chapter, I'll show you why emotional recovery almost always fails after collapse, and why the Japanese ignored feelings completely in the early stages. This goes against everything modern culture teaches, and that's exactly why it works. After collapse, most people make the same mistake. They try to feel better first. They focus on healing emotions, processing pain, regaining confidence, and they stay broken. Not because emotions don't matter, but because emotion-first recovery is unstable. The ancient Japanese understood this clearly. They believed emotions are responses, not foundations. If the foundation is broken, everything built on it will collapse again. This is why emotional recovery fails. You can feel motivated today and empty tomorrow, calm one moment and overwhelmed the next. Emotions change with sleep, hunger, stress, environment. They cannot support rebuilding. Modern advice ignores this. It tells you to work through your feelings, to rest until you feel ready, to wait for clarity. The Japanese considered this delay dangerous because waiting for emotional readiness keeps you exposed to chaos. They believed recovery must begin before you feel capable. Structure does not ask how you feel, and that is why it works. After collapse, the Japanese did something counterintuitive. They restricted life, not to punish themselves, but to reduce variables. They simplified routines. They limited decisions. They repeated basic actions. Eating at fixed times, sleeping at fixed hours, moving the body in predictable ways. These actions stabilized the nervous system before emotions were addressed. The Japanese believed calm emerges after order, never before. This is why emotional recovery relapses. You feel better, but nothing underneath has changed. So the moment pressure returns, collapse repeats. The Japanese didn't trust relief. They trusted repetition. They believed emotions follow structure, the way water follows a channel. No channel, no flow. This is the part most people resist, because it feels inhuman, cold, uncaring. But collapse doesn't require kindness. It requires containment. The Japanese response to collapse was not compassion, it was precision. They rebuilt order even while feeling empty. They did not wait for confidence to return. They created conditions where confidence became unnecessary. This is why emotional recovery alone always fails. It tries to rebuild from the top down. The Japanese rebuilt from the bottom up. Structure first, emotion later. This chapter should challenge you because it removes your favorite excuse. I'm not ready yet. The Japanese never waited to be ready. They restored order immediately. In the next chapter, I'll introduce the principle they used to stabilize life after collapse, a concept that prioritizes balance over strength. Kintosei. This is where real recovery begins. The Japanese had a principle that governed recovery long before psychology existed. They called it kintosei. It does not mean resilience. It does not mean optimism. It does not mean bouncing back. Kintosei means restoring balance before building power. The Japanese believed strength without balance is dangerous because strength amplifies instability. When life collapses, most people try to become strong again. They push themselves. They chase motivation. They force confidence, and they collapse a second time. The Japanese expected this failure. They believed collapse reveals one thing clearly. You were strong in places that did not matter and unstable where it mattered most. So, Kintosei rejected strength completely at first. It demanded stability. Stability of schedule, stability of movement, stability of environment, not progress, not growth, stability. The Japanese understood that after collapse, the nervous system is unregulated. Your reactions are exaggerated, your thoughts race, your emotions swing. Trying to build strength in this state only adds pressure. Kintosei removes pressure. It narrows life down until nothing is left that can break. This is why Japanese recovery looks slow. Outsiders mistake it for weakness. It is not. It is strategic containment. They believed a man must first become unshakable in small things before attempting anything large. Waking at the same hour, eating simply, cleaning daily, moving the body gently but consistently. No ambition, no urgency, no proving. These actions restored internal balance. Once balance returned, strength became safe again. This is the part modern men ignore. They want to rebuild everything at once: career, relationships, identity. The Japanese rebuilt the frame, not the house, because a broken frame collapses under weight. Kintose demanded patience, not emotional patience, structural patience. You do not add new challenges until the system holds under minimal load. This is why collapse repeats for most people. They rebuild complexity before restoring balance. Kintose forbids this. It forces you to earn complexity back, day by day. This chapter should feel slow, because real recovery is slow. Speed is what caused collapse in the first place. In the next chapter, I'll show you how the Japanese rebuilt life using small, rigid rituals. Not motivation, not vision, order. This is where recovery becomes tangible. After collapse, the Japanese did not rebuild life in big moves. They rebuilt it in small, rigid rituals. This is where most people sabotage recovery. They want momentum. They want visible progress. They want proof that things are improving. The Japanese wanted containment. They believed chaos shrinks only when order grows, and order grows best in small, controlled spaces. So they started there. One fixed wake-up time, one simple meal routine, one place kept clean every day. Not because these things were important, because they were controllable. After collapse, control is scarce. Trying to regain control over everything only creates more failure. So the Japanese narrowed the battlefield. They chose a few actions that could be executed perfectly, every day, without negotiation. This is the ritual of small order. It does not aim to fix your life. It aims to prove stability exists. Each completed ritual sends a signal to the nervous system. Something is holding. That signal matters more than motivation. Modern men chase inspiration during recovery. The Japanese chased predictability. Predictability calms chaos faster than hope ever will. This is why the rituals were boring. No variety, no creativity, no optimization, just repetition. Repetition trained reliability. Reliability restored trust. Trust quieted panic. This is the chain most people never complete. They add too much too soon. They clean everything one day, then nothing for a week. They wake early twice, then collapse. Inconsistency reopens chaos. The Japanese avoided this by keeping rituals small enough to survive bad days. If a ritual cannot be completed on your worst day, it is too large. This rule protected recovery. The ritual of small order did something else quietly. It rebuilt identity, not through affirmations, not through reflection, through evidence. I do what I say, daily. That evidence accumulates, and when evidence accumulates, confidence returns without being chased. This is why the Japanese recovery avoided emotion. Emotion fluctuates. Ritual accumulates. But small order has a weakness. It is fragile when pain resurfaces, and pain always resurfaces. In the next chapter, I'll show you why recovery includes an unavoidable empty phase, a silent period where progress feels meaningless and most men destroy everything they rebuilt. The Japanese expected this phase. They trained for it. This is where recovery either becomes permanent or collapses again. After the initial order returns, something unsettling appears. Emptiness. Not peace, not relief. A hollow space where emotion fades and meaning hasn't returned yet. This is the phase most men misinterpret and destroy themselves in. They think something is wrong. I should feel better by now. Why does this feel flat? Why isn't motivation coming back? So they escape. They seek stimulation. They chase distraction. They manufacture drama. And recovery collapses again. The Japanese expected this phase. They called it unavoidable, because when chaos is removed and structure is restored, the noise disappears, but so does the identity that lived inside it. For a time, there is nothing to replace it. This is the empty phase. The Japanese did not rush to fill it. They endured it. They understood something modern men fear. Emptiness is not depression. It is space. Space created when old habits die and new meaning has not yet formed. Filling this space too quickly reintroduces instability. So they did nothing extra. No new goals, no self-discovery, no finding purpose. They maintained the rituals. They preserved small order. They waited. Not passively, but precisely. This waiting trained endurance of uncertainty. Most men cannot endure this. They need emotional feedback. They need progress signals. They need reassurance. The Japanese accepted silence. They believed meaning emerges only when it is not forced. This is where discipline proves real. Can you continue correct conduct without reward? Can you follow structure when nothing feels urgent? Can you resist the urge to make something happen? Most men answer no. That is why collapse repeats. They escape the empty phase and return to chaos. The Japanese stayed. They believed endurance here determined everything that followed. If you endure emptiness without reaction, structure solidifies. If you react, everything breaks again. This phase does not last forever, but it cannot be rushed. Eventually, something changes. Not excitement, not ambition, clarity. You begin to sense where weight belongs again, what deserves effort, what no longer matters. This clarity is fragile. It only appears if the empty phase is respected. The Japanese protected this phase fiercely. They did not talk about it. They did not dramatize it. They simply endured it. And when it passed, recovery became permanent. In the final chapter, I'll show you how the Japanese transformed collapse into a new foundation, not by returning to who they were, but by becoming structured enough to survive anything. This is where recovery stops being recovery and becomes permanence. The Japanese never tried to return to who they were before collapse. They believed that version of the self had already failed. So they didn't rebuild identity. They replaced it with structure. By this stage, Kintose had done its work. Balance was restored. Small order held under pressure. The empty phase had passed without escape. Nothing dramatic happened, and that was the sign it worked. The Japanese believe that true recovery feels uneventful. No emotional breakthrough, no sudden confidence, no triumphant moment. Just stability that doesn't disappear. This is where most modern men misunderstand strength. They think strength is intensity. The Japanese believe strength is what remains when intensity is gone. After collapse, they did not chase meaning. They allowed meaning to emerge from order, because order outlives motivation. When life is conducted correctly long enough, identity reshapes itself quietly. You stop asking who you are. You stop trying to feel strong. You stop fearing collapse. Because collapse no longer makes sense inside the structure you live in. This is the final transformation. Life does not become easier, but it becomes stable, and stability absorbed shock. This is why Japanese recovery endured generations. They did not rely on optimism. They relied on systems that survived bad days. The man who lives by structure does not panic when life shakes. He tightens sequence. He reduces variables. He continues. That is unbreakability. Not emotional armor, not confidence. alignment that does not crack. This is what Kintose ultimately creates, a life that does not depend on mood, a mind that does not collapse under uncertainty, a self that does not disintegrate when pressure returns. You don't heal back to normal, you become organized enough to endure anything. Most men will never do this because it requires letting go of who they thought they were. The Japanese let collapse erase that version willingly, and what replaced it was quieter, colder, and far more durable. This is the ancient Japanese way of recovery, not repair, reconstruction. And once reconstructed correctly, life may bend, but it does not fall apart again.